Thank you, Iris. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm delighted to be with you at the 2014 Youth Business Summit. This is the best of the best business plan competition across the country. And if you're here, that means you're the top 20% of students across the world. So really congratulate yourself and on being here. Being a part of this competition, you've demonstrated skills, that you have the skills, the ability, and the drive to be successful in this competition and in your careers as well as your life. But getting here is a very long journey. I've been speaking with some of you today and learning some of your stories. I know you've come through difficult, adverse times and challenging times, and you're here. And so I want to share with you some stories in my life that might be helpful for you as you look to grow your careers or get into careers and do well in this competition. You know, the challenges that we all face, you know, I've been there. I know that many of you have gone through difficult times, and I know what that's like. You see, I grew up poor. I came to America from India at the age of 9. We had nothing. We had $75 in our pocket, and we lived in a small, shared one-bedroom apartment in Flushing, Queens. Anyone know where Queens is? Yeah. Yes. And I lived right off of Casino Boulevard in Queens, and my parents had 2 jobs. My sisters and I, we helped out as much as we could, being so young. But we struggled, and we worked hard, and we survived. Eventually, we saved a lot of money, and we were able to buy a business, a small family business. We bought a Dairy Queen store. It's a small Dairy Queen. It's an ice cream store, and we grew up working at the Dairy Queen. Eventually, I saved up some money, and I was able to support myself in college. I went to a good school, and actually myself participated in a similar business competition that you're participating in here today. And I learned a lot from that competition. I graduated in 1992, about 20 years ago, and it was a recession at the time. People don't remember, but it was a tough economy, and I found myself looking for a job. And I didn't know where to begin. What kind of job do I do? What kind of experience do I have? I had no experience. So a mentor suggested to me, you know, go work for a pharmaceutical company. They're big, they have a great training program, and start in sales. Because great, you know, business people start in sales. Because you learn the products, you get to know the customers, you get to know the competitors, you get to know the company, you get to know everything. And here I was, okay, so I said, fine, great. I'll start a job, I'll look for a job in pharmaceutical sales. And I looked, and it was a tough environment, not a lot of jobs at the time. I found an ad in the paper, and it said hiring pharmaceutical sales for a Fortune 500 company in New York. So I applied. In those days, you send letters, and I sent a letter, and within a week, sure enough, I got a very nice rejection letter. It said, thank you, Mr. Miglani, for applying, but we don't hire kids out of college. You have no experience. And I looked at that letter, and I said, oh, you know, of course I don't have experience. But a moment, just an instant, I said, why don't you call the person who sent you the letter? And so I looked up his name, and it had his phone number at the bottom. So he was the vice president of sales for this Fortune 500 company in New York City. So I picked up the phone, and I phoned him. And I got his secretary on the phone. And her name was Joanne. I still remember her to this day. And Joanne said, what can I do for you? I said, well, my name is Bob Miglani. I applied for a job. May I speak to this person, the VP of sales? And she said, well, what's this about? I said, well, I'd like an interview, please. And she said, well, did you hear from us? I said, yes, I had a very nice rejection letter from you, but I'd like a chance to speak with him. And she said, well, you know, we don't hire kids out of college, so thank you very much and have a nice day. And I said, thank you, hung up the phone. And, you know, my mind sort of said, you know, what are you going to do? You call her back? I said, yeah, why not? So I called her back the next day. And I said, you know, it's me again. Bob, I spoke to you yesterday. I'd just like 5 minutes to talk to the vice president. I want to show him how good I am, what I've learned, and I can do this job in pharmaceutical sales. She said, honey, you know, I can't help you. I'm sorry. And she very nicely hung up. And at this point, I said to myself, you know, I called her twice. Why don't I call her again? So I called her again. And I called her for 3.5 weeks every single day. Now, by this time, she got to know my name. She got to know my parents' names, and I got to know a little bit about her. But at the end of the 3.5 weeks, she said, you know what? You're a good kid. I'll give you a shot. You have 5 minutes to speak to him. I got on the phone with the vice president of sales. In 5 minutes, he said, fine, you'll have an interview in 3 weeks, and you're going to meet with one of my people who's the hiring manager. So 3 weeks, I did it. I got an interview, I got a shot. Here I was, a kid with no money, graduated from college, and I did what you did, do a competition, prepared myself. So with the 3 weeks, I prepared. I did research on the company. And those days, you went to the library to do research. Now you do it on your phones. I did research all about the company, the products, the competitors, where their marketplace is growing. I also read all the sales books I could find, because there's a job in sales. So I found out that there's 10 characteristics among successful salespeople. And I read through all of the material. And what I did was, I prepared a presentation, like you're doing today, and you're doing for the rest of a few days. I had a resume, which was very thin at the time, but I prepared a presentation, putting together the top 10 characteristics of salespeople. And on the top of each page, I had the number one, characteristic, such as good communication skills. So I wrote on the rest of the page how I obtained those communication skills. I presented in a business plan competition. I worked at my family's Dairy Queen store, talking with customers. I was a paper boy. I had communication skills. So every page had different trait and how I gained those skills. So at this point, that presentation was pretty thick compared to my resume, which was very thin. And so I went on this interview. I was ready. I was ready to go. It was a Friday. I can remember Friday morning. And I went in this interview, and I presented to this person who was a hiring manager for this pharmaceutical sales job in New York City. And instead of just having a question and answer, I gave him 10 reasons, top 10 reasons to hire Bob Miglani. He was very impressed. We spent about 4 hours in that interview, and he really was impressed. He said, can you wait a couple of hours? I'm going to get somebody else to interview you. So I got somebody else came, and I interviewed with him. I did the same thing, same presentation. I left about 5 o'clock that afternoon, and I was exhausted. But I'd given it my best shot, and the rest is up to the universe. And I just did the best I could. 8 o'clock on Friday night, I got a call from a guy named Bob Miller, who was a hiring manager I'd interviewed with that day. He said, you got the job. And I was floored. It was great. I had a company car, a very good salary, I had good training program, but more importantly, I had a chance. I had a chance to pursue the American dream. And to me, that was priceless. And over the course of the last 21 years, I've been at the same company, at Pfizer. I've grown. I've moved on from sales and I got to travel 40 countries, do business all over the world. I've done business in London and in India. I've been to villages in India. I've eaten dinner at the top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. I've done business all over the world, and I've gotten a chance to do great things and be successful. I've also had my ups and downs in life, like a lot of you do. What I'd like to do today is just share with you 3 things, 3 lessons that I learned during those early years that might be helpful for you as you look to grow your life and your careers. The first is prepare. Do your homework. Know everything about the field you want to enter into. Know everything deeply. Don't just read, but just talk to people. Go out and engage people. Find somebody who's doing what you think you'd like to do and call them up and ask them. You'd be surprised how many people take a phone call from somebody who's really genuinely interested in growing and moving on and learning from each other. That's number 1. Prepare everything. Remember, success is where preparation meets opportunity. If I hadn't prepared for that interview and that presentation the way I did, I don't think I'd be standing here today. I wouldn't have that job. Because I could just go in and the interview and do it back and forth and say, oh, it was a very nice interview. Let's see if I got the job. I wanted that job, and I knew everything about that company, and I made sure that I knew everything about that position. And I was able to build a narrative so I can help make that decision very quickly for that person. So, number 1, prepare. Number 2, take massive action. Believe that action will yield positive results. It will. Don't wait for somebody. Don't wait for somebody to call you. Don't wait for somebody to email you back on something. Take action. Pick up the phone. Don't just email them. Call somebody. Do something about it. And remember, there's a law of cause and effect, which basically states that every action has consequences. And the more action you take, the more luckier you get in life. Remember that. The more actions you take, the luckier you get in life. And that's really important. So that's number 2. Number 3, it's very important that you never ever give up. If I had given up on that phone call, from that, stop calling that woman, and listened to the critic in my own head, I would never have gotten that job and never have been put on a path of the last 20 years, which has been great. And so never ever give up. Remember, believe in yourself. Believe the strengths that you have, the adversities that you've faced in life, in getting here and being here, counts. They count for something. They matter. And so it's really important that you focus on your strengths and you never give up, because success is just around the corner. Just keep trying. Keep moving forward. Let me conclude by this. I believe that your greatest successes, your greatest accomplishments, and your greatest moments of happiness lie ahead of you. All you have to do is believe that you have something to offer this world. Take responsibility and then go and offer it. Believe in your strength, because if you're here today among the top 20% of students in this competition, if you're here today, you're already on a path to greatness. Believe in yourself, and I wish you great success here today in your career and in your life. Thank you very much.